Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. There was this soft click in the hallway. One of those sounds your brain doesn't register right away. I thought it was the coat closet settling. But then it came again, sharper this time. I leaned back in my chair, peeled my eyes off the mortgage calculator, and listened. Third time. Louder. The front door. I walked out, expecting to see Vanessa coming in from her jog. She always threw the deadbolt too hard. Said it made her feel safe. But the hallway was empty. No shoes. No keys. No voice calling. Lester, I'm sweaty and starving. Instead, on the little entryway bench where we tossed our mail, there was a box. Not a gift. Not even sealed. Just a plain cardboard box with my name scribbled on the side. No note. Inside were two things. The ring I proposed with still in its velvet case. A printed screenshot of a text message she had already sent. Wedding's off. Expect my lawyer's call. No salutation. No punctuation. Just that. I stood there, heart in my throat, the ring catching afternoon light like it was mocking me. I had just wired the final deposit for the venue 2 hours ago. I'd picked up her dry-cleaned white dress the night before and hung it where sunlight wouldn't touch it. This wasn't a fight. We hadn't argued. No screaming. No cheating that I knew of. She had even kissed me on the forehead that morning. So I did what any completely rational, emotionally shredded man might do. I sat on the stairs, holding the ring in one hand and my phone in the other, refreshing our joint mortgage app like it would give me answers. When I say I'm not the kind of guy who handles change well, I mean I have backup shoelaces in my car. I laminate my grocery lists. I once cried over the wrong kind of mustard. But in that moment, I was ice. I texted back one word. Noted. Then I called the mortgage broker and said, withdraw me from the application. Immediately. He stammered something about deadlines. I didn't care. I didn't yell. I just listened to him fumble through cancellation clauses while I stared at the space where our wedding countdown used to hang. It was gone too. She hadn't just canceled the wedding. She erased me like a to-do list she didn't need anymore. But here's the thing, Vanessa had a plan. And I wasn't supposed to break first. She thought I'd chase her. She thought I'd beg. She never imagined I'd just vanish from the puzzle and leave her holding the empty frame. The silence in the apartment didn't feel like heartbreak. Felt like setup. Like something had been engineered weeks ago and I'd been too distracted, too in love, to see the gears turning. The box she left behind haunted me more than the message. It was too precise, too cold. Not angry. Not regretful. Just finished. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table, lights off, reading through our shared documents, trying to understand what I had missed. Our wedding planner contract. The house pre-approval forms. Our joint checking activity. And then I found it. A forwarded email buried in a chain. One Vanessa had accidentally CC'd me on weeks ago. It was a response to her sister, confirming she was moving forward solo with the house, and would be handling the mortgage details herself once my name was off it. It was dated a full 10 days before she ended the engagement. My hands went cold. The lawyer's call wasn't about the wedding. It was about getting my name off everything we built after she had already shifted it all to her side. And the worst part? I had funded more than half. The deposits, the inspections, even the furniture that hadn't been delivered yet. That's when I realized this wasn't an emotional decision. It was financial strategy. She didn't leave me because she fell out of love. She iced me out because I was a stepping stone. Someone to help carry the load until she could afford to carry it alone, or with someone else. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up and took photos of every receipt, every transfer, every document with my name on it. I saved copies to a drive I hadn't used since college. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted clarity. And then came the knock. It was late, well past midnight. I thought maybe, for a second, it was her. Maybe she'd come back to explain, or to cry, or even to scream. But it wasn't Vanessa. It was her cousin, Jake. The same Jake who had bartended our engagement party and flirted with the bridesmaids like it was his job. His face was pale, like he'd seen something he wasn't supposed to. "She's not who you think she is," he said, before I could even ask why he was there. That's when the unraveling truly began. Jake stood there like he didn't know whether to come in or run. He kept glancing over his shoulder, as if someone might have followed him. I'd never seen him nervous before. At the engagement party, he was the loudest guy in the room, the one making toast after toast like he was auditioning for a spotlight. Now, he wouldn't meet my eyes. "She's been planning this for months," he muttered. "She said it was just a backup plan at first. But then the financing came through, and you—" He hesitated. "You made it too easy." I didn't interrupt him. I just stood there, arms folded, wondering how deep the rot went. Jake looked ashamed. He told me that Vanessa had started floating the idea back in April, about how she wanted to own the condo solo but didn't qualify on her own. She was making calls behind my back, getting advice from people she never mentioned to me. And then she brought up a name that froze me in place. Grant. Grant was her ex. Not just some old flame from college, but the guy she used to live with, the one she said broke her into pieces. According to Jake, they reconnected at her office's New Year's retreat, and things had gotten complicated fast. Vanessa had convinced everyone it was innocent. But Jake saw the texts. He saw the late-night calls. And worse, he saw Grant leave her place the morning after my birthday. I remember that day clearly because she said she was visiting her mom and didn't want me to tag along because they needed girl time. It wasn't her mom. Jake said he kept quiet because he thought it was just a mistake, that maybe she'd end it before the wedding. But then she started bragging that she was finally ahead. She'd get the condo, the furniture, the wedding gifts, and she wouldn't owe anyone anything. Especially not soft Lester who thinks love is a team sport. I didn't say a word. My hands were clenched so tight my knuckles ached. And then Jake handed me something I didn't expect. A flash drive. She used my laptop one night and forgot to log out of her cloud. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. You should too. After he left, I sat alone again, the quiet now feeling like a thick fog that wouldn't lift. I plugged the drive into my laptop and opened the folder. Photos, screenshots, voicemails, emails between her and Grant, laughing about how clueless I was, planning which of my assets she could spin in her favor, even mocking the way I talked, saying I sounded like a customer service robot with abandonment issues. I felt sick, but I kept reading. I had to, because now I knew it wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation, calculation, and every soft smile she gave me for the past 6 months had a string attached I never saw. I closed the laptop and sat back, staring at the wall. She didn't just break off the wedding. She engineered a heist, and I had the evidence to prove it. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat there in the dark with my laptop still glowing, that folder open, staring at all the pieces of my relationship that had been carefully rearranged to hide the truth. Vanessa had turned love into leverage, and I had signed every dotted line like a fool thinking we were building a future. What she was really building was an escape tunnel, and I had been her willing contractor. By 6 a.m., I knew I wasn't going to cry. That part of me, the one that begged, questioned, doubted, had gone numb. Something else was taking over. Not rage, not even revenge. It was clarity. And once it started, it didn't stop. I opened my bank accounts. I printed everything. Every shared expense. Every dollar I had wired. Every wedding-related purchase she had used my card for. And then I called my cousin, Paige. Paige is a family law attorney. The kind with a reputation for being calm, professional, and quietly ruthless. I didn't tell her the whole story. I didn't have to. One glance at the printed emails and her mouth tightened. She gave me a nod and said, "Let's fix this, but we do it clean." First step. I froze every shared financial connection. She thought I'd be too devastated to think straight. She didn't expect spreadsheets. Then I sent a single email to her lawyer, not even to Vanessa, outlining that I had documentation of her premeditated financial manipulation. I attached one screenshot. No threats, no demands, just a polite note asking for immediate withdrawal from all shared contracts and full relinquishment of any claim to my contributions. I signed it, "Respectfully, Lester." The reply came 3 hours later. Her lawyer was unaware of any malfeasance, but said they'd review the documentation. No apology. No denial. Just legal deflection. That told me everything. She had prepared for drama, maybe even tears, but not for precision. Not for me stepping out of her narrative and writing a new one. But I wasn't done. I logged into our wedding website, the one she had built with pictures of us laughing at the lake, holding hands in autumn leaves, posing under fairy lights. I replaced the front page with one sentence. Wedding canceled, best wishes to the bride and her business partner. I didn't name him. I didn't need to. Everyone who knew us well enough to be invited already knew who Grant was. I sent the update link to our guest list. Quietly. No extra words. No explanation. I didn't expect the responses I got. Some were stunned. Others admitted they'd noticed things. A few even thanked me for speaking up. Said they'd been used by people like Vanessa before. It was like lifting a veil. The kind that everyone pretends isn't there because it's covered in lace and good intentions. That night, Vanessa texted me for the first time since her lawyer message. All it said was, "You've made your point. Happy now?" I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't answer, because this wasn't about happiness anymore. It was about freedom, and she had no idea just how much she'd given me. For the first time in weeks, I felt still. Not good. Not vindicated. Just still. Like the spinning had stopped. Like I was standing in the ruins of what should have been a wedding, and instead of crying over the ashes, I was just watching the smoke rise and wondering what it all really was. Not love. Not partnership. Definitely not what she claimed it to be. But I underestimated how quickly she'd try to recover. 2 days after I sent the cancellation notice and severed every financial tie I could, Vanessa showed up at my door. No call. No text. Just the sharp knock that used to mean she forgot her keys or locked herself out. This time it sounded different. It sounded like desperation wearing too much perfume. She looked perfect. Hair done, makeup soft, wearing that white blouse she knew I liked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "Can we talk?" she asked like she was asking me to hand her a dish towel. Not the remains of my dignity. I stepped aside without a word. Not to welcome her, but to let her hang herself with her own words. She walked in like she still lived there. Like her shoes still belonged under the bench. Like her smile still meant something. But her eyes scanned the room. She noticed what was missing. The photos. The wedding binder. The countdown. Gone. She sat on the couch she hadn't paid for and looked at me like I owed her something. "I didn't mean for it to end this way," she started. "You know how much pressure I was under." Pressure. That was her opener. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "You didn't deserve that." Just pressure. She said she panicked. That the wedding was getting too big. That I was moving too fast. That Grant was a moment of weakness. She framed it like a bad dream. Like something we could laugh about in a year. But I wasn't laughing. I was listening for the part where she took accountability. It never came. I asked her, calmly, if she ever intended to marry me at all. She paused too long. Then she said, "I thought I did, until I realized I had to think about myself for once." That was it. The final puzzle piece. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted losing the version of me who made it easy. The man who over-apologized, overpaid, and under-questioned. She wanted him back. But he was gone. I told her I had spoken to my attorney. That I had evidence. That I wouldn't be filing anything criminal, because I wasn't after revenge. I was after release. That's when her face cracked. She called me dramatic. Said I was acting like a victim. Claimed she never asked for the money, the condo, or the gifts. That I offered them. Like that cleared her conscience. But the panic was there, in her voice, in her hands. Because deep down, she knew I wasn't the same person who cried when we got our first blender together. I had changed, and she hadn't seen it coming. She left angry. Said I'd regret throwing this away. But I didn't throw anything. She did. I just stopped trying to pick up the pieces. The day after she stormed out, I expected silence. I thought maybe she'd retreat, regroup, and disappear like she had originally planned when she sent that heartless text. But I was wrong. Vanessa wasn't ready to vanish. not without trying to salvage what she thought she still controlled, my image. The phone calls started that afternoon. Not to me, to our mutual friends. People from her job, my family, even my college roommate, Micah. Suddenly, they were reaching out, confused, some cautiously asking, "Hey man, what's going on?" Vanessa says there's been a huge misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That was her word for it. As if I'd misread her months-long affair. As if my lawyer accidentally printed those emails. As if Jake's flash drive had been forged in Photoshop. But I didn't react. I didn't argue. I just sent each person the same thing, the public link to a single folder labeled Context. No captions. No commentary. Just the facts. And the silence that followed was deafening. Within a day, her narrative began to collapse. The mutuals stopped responding to her. My cousin said she tried calling 3 times and left a voicemail with her voice cracking, saying, "He's ruining me." I wasn't. I was just telling the truth. Finally, without fear or shame. She had built her reputation on curated charm and half-truths. And now that someone was holding up the whole picture, her shine began to dim. But the real unraveling came at her own bridal shower. Yes, she still tried to have it. I found out through an Instagram story. A mutual friend had posted a quick clip before deleting it. Vanessa, in white, surrounded by a few hesitant-looking women, trying to laugh and act like nothing had happened. Like the wedding was still on. Like she could bluff her way through the collapse. What she didn't know was that one of the guests had already seen the folder. And she brought it up. She told me later, over coffee, unplanned, that halfway through the afternoon, someone asked Vanessa why she canceled. And instead of owning up to anything, she smiled and said, "He couldn't handle a strong woman making independent decisions." The guest, her name was Brenna, one of her oldest friends, said it felt like a slap in the face. So she opened her phone, pulled up the folder, and passed it around the table. No commentary. Just truth, again, doing what it does best, cutting through the performance. By the end of the hour, half the guests had left. Vanessa didn't post anything after that. No selfies. No empowered woman captions. Just silence. But I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't happy she was falling apart. I was still processing how long she had been building something on top of me, using my trust as scaffolding. And now that she couldn't stand on it anymore, she was shocked that there was nothing beneath her. I was done being the foundation for someone else's lies. I thought that would be the end of it. The exposure. The silence. The moment where her whole narrative crumbled in the hands of the people she tried to charm. I thought she'd vanish quietly, start over somewhere else, maybe even spin this into some kind of empowerment arc online. But Vanessa didn't go quietly. She went loud and desperate. A week after the failed bridal shower, I got a text from her sister, Mallory. We'd never been close. She always treated me like a substitute teacher in her life, polite but distant. So when she asked if I could meet her briefly, I hesitated. But curiosity won. We met at a small bookstore cafe downtown. One Vanessa never liked because she said it smelled like dust and disappointment. I liked it immediately. Mallory didn't waste time. "She's spiraling," she said, not even waiting for the coffee. "She's blaming you for everything. Says you humiliated her, that you ruined her future. But that's not why I'm here." She reached into her tote and pulled out a leather-bound planner. Vanessa's. She left this at my place. I wasn't going to look, but then I saw something strange. Dates, notes, weird timelines that didn't make sense. I opened the planner, and there it was, page after page of meticulous entries, color-coded and organized. But not about wedding planning, about coordination, transfer deadlines, calls with real estate brokers, notations about my work travel dates, even notes about grants availability. It read like the blueprint to a heist. And I had been the vault. Mallory didn't look proud. She looked tired. "I think she convinced herself it was survival," she said softly. But I read it. This wasn't survival. It was strategy. I thanked her. I didn't ask why she gave it to me. I think, in her own way, she wanted to let go of something too. Later that night, I sat with that planner on my lap and thought about the man I had been just 3 months ago. Blindly optimistic, emotionally available to a fault, proud to be the supportive one. I gave her my time, my credit, my home, and even when she ended it by text, a part of me still wondered if I had done something wrong. Now I knew. I wasn't wrong. I was just useful. That week, Vanessa made one last move. She posted a long, carefully written status on social media. No names. Just phrases like narcissistic manipulation, emotional neglect, and self-liberation. It was textbook deflection. Some people liked it. A few commented with heart emojis. But the people who mattered stayed quiet or messaged me directly. They knew. I didn't respond. I didn't post a rebuttal or try to defend myself. I didn't need to. The truth was out there, and she couldn't clean it up with filters and hashtags. The final nail came quietly. An email from the condo lender. Her solo application had been denied. Without my income, she didn't qualify. The property went back on the market. Her perfect plan, folded into her perfect timeline, was officially dead. And me? I had nothing left to lose, which meant I finally had something she never expected me to have again. Control. 3 months later, I woke up in an unfamiliar apartment. Not because I moved cities or changed my name or tried to erase what happened, but because I started over. On my own terms. I rented a small loft on the other side of town. Nothing fancy. Exposed brick, too much noise from the street, and a wobbly kitchen table I bought secondhand from a retired magician named Dawn. But it was mine. Every inch of it. Mine. The silence in this place doesn't haunt me. It doesn't echo betrayal or carry the weight of missing someone who never truly showed up. It's peaceful. Still a little lonely, sure, but honest. And that's a feeling I forgot existed. I kept the flash drive Jake gave me not out of spite, but as a reminder of who I was, of what I ignored, of how easily love can become a disguise when you're too afraid to see behind the curtain. I don't hate Vanessa. I don't check her social media. I don't stalk the comments or wonder who she's with. That part of me, the one who wanted answers, apologies, some final scene with closure, he packed up with the wedding photos and left my life quietly, just like she once did. What stayed with me, though, is self-respect. Boundaries. The understanding that being kind doesn't mean being naive. That being supportive doesn't mean staying silent while someone uses your loyalty as leverage. I've stopped apologizing for the way I care. I just learned to stop giving it to people who treat it like currency. The people who believed me, who stood by me, they're still in my life. My cousin Paige helped me get my finances back on track. Jake eventually wrote Vanessa a letter of his own, saying he was done covering for her. And Mallory, she sent me a Christmas card. First one I ever got from her. Sometimes, I wonder how close I came to signing my life away for a version of love that wasn't real. And it scares me. But more than that, it reminds me how strong you can become when someone thinks they've broken you. Not because you snap back, but because you rise piece by piece, quieter than before, but steadier too. I didn't get the wedding. I didn't get the fairy tale. But I got something better. I got free. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever outgrown someone else's plan for your life, tell us in the comments. And while you're at it, share one shocking event from history that changed everything for you or the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Reddit Confessions for more stories where the truth always finds the light.